I think one of the biggest things that we see consistently, especially in the last generation or so, is people think they can create a passion for anything that earns the most money.
Ooh, yep. Today we have the lovely Mike and Joe from Mike and Joe Consulting. They're gonna share their amazing experiences in entrepreneurship, law, crime fighting. Without any further delay, welcome.
Thank you for having us. So we'll briefly introduce ourselves. I'm Mike Bonventre. I was born into a family business, so I grew up in business. At one point in our life, we became victims of organized crime, which brought me through a long story into undercover work with law enforcement. And my job was to take over organized crime business interests and make them profitable so that organized crime could rob them for more money. And after about 3 years of undercover work, all those guys went to jail. And I started going around to those businesses, telling them what was happening to them and offering them free consulting as a moral obligation. Little by little, people heard about me, and I was eventually hired as what we would call undercover boss 40 years before Undercover Boss, the TV show, was ever thought of. People would hire me to pretend to be an employee, to go in, find out what's going wrong, make suggestions, help them write their policies and procedures, hire new people, and start new systems for them. We'll cut that short. I've been doing that for 40 years now. Besides helping people fight crime and get around the delays of our broken system, that's been a side passion for me. But my real focus and passion has been in business, starting new businesses, helping struggling businesses, and consulting businesses. Now, that's my history. My wife is a 39-year attorney working with businesses from the legal aspect, forming them, buying properties, forming franchises, developing partnerships, and not telling me to shut up when I should be letting her talk.
I'm Joe Fabrizio. I practiced law here locally for 38 years. I'm in my 38th year right now as a sole practitioner. I was born and raised here in our hometown. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a retired. He retired as a lieutenant from the police force. He was a law enforcement professional. After law school, I went right through high school to college to law school. And after law school, I got a job for about 2 weeks. And then I got the opportunity to start my own practice, which I did, and I never looked back.
Wow.
In that period of time, I have been very fortunate to represent people in family matters. Now, most people think that means just divorces or custody. Right. No, that's part of it for sure. But wherever the law touches a family, I'm there. When somebody wants to adopt a child, I'm there. When somebody wants to transfer property from the elderly parents to the adult children, we do that. Folks that want to start a family business or have a family business, when people want to buy and sell real estate. So what we try to do is bring the law to people. I don't represent corporations or banks or anything like that. Did that years ago. Don't do that. I represent a lot of small businesses, which has afforded me the opportunity to hone my skills and to share my experience because I'm a small business. And practicing law is not the only thing I've done. I have taught business law at the college level. I have a series of programs that I've presented. No disrespect to the gentlemen in the room, but they're they're geared toward women because the skills that we need as women to succeed in business are a little bit different than the fellas. They're a lot different than the fellas, and it starts with communication. That's the real key. In addition to that, probably my favorite job and my most important job has been sitting right here next to this man.
Oh.
He is not, it's kind of like the Army. It's not a job, it is an adventure. And we have had several other endeavors that, quite frankly, stretched me to my limit. Talk about think outside the box. Well, we just blew the box up. And we've had an ice cream stand, and we've had a drug testing business, and we've got the publishing company. And we just keep learning, and we just keep meeting fabulous people who want to go on a journey. And now we are at a point in our lives where we have a lot to share and a lot to assist, so that a person can avoid every single mistake that we each made 5 times. And I'm still currently practicing law full time. Basically, I'm a trial lawyer, and not sure what else I can tell you about me. That's my story.
I love the gamut of both of you. Like when I got a chance to speak with Joe and he said that his wife was fascinating, I love what you bring. I think both of you are like a great compliment. Like,
Thank
how did you meet? What was the journey? Like, did you start out together?
Well, I'm going to let him take this one. But when you talk about us complimenting, I must apologize to you if we are blowing up your screen. I will just tell you one little fact about us. We got married on a beach in Maui.
Ooh.
In 1996, before they called them destination weddings. Our wedding was basically a "you're going where?" wedding. Yeah. When we told people, it wasn't like, "Oh, you have a destination wedding." No, it was like, "We're going where?" And so, hence the Hawaiian prince. I didn't realize till we sat down how completely screaming both of these are. I'm so sorry. We would have been a little more complimentary, but you're getting the full picture here. So
yes.
I'm going to let him tell you how we met.
I'll make it really short and sweet. My wife's name is Jo, J-O. When I came out from undercover, putting the mafia in prison and putting them out of business, I went back into my family business, and I got a phone call from Joe Fabrizio to go to the law office, which just happened to be, she rented a space in the mobster law office building. And I got it. My secretary said, Joe Fabrizio has a check for you for a job that I did. And I said, why are they calling me? I just put half of them in prison, and I cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. Why would they have the nerve to call me to go pick up this check? And by the way, who is Joe Fabrizio? And I told him to keep the check, rip it up. I wasn't interested. And I think the second call, I said to my staff, I got to go find out who this new mobster is. And if I go to jail, bail me out, and we'll start work again tomorrow morning. So I went over to the law office, and this young lady was sitting at the desk. And I said, I'm here to see Joe Fabrizio. And she said, can I help you? And I was in my mobster mode. And I said, you're not too bright, are you, sweetheart? And she says, well, I may not be too bright, but I can spell. And she pointed to the door. I'm a little slow, but I catch on. There was no E on Joe. So I figured out she was Joe. Now, sharp as a tack. So then, of course, being a male, I put my hands on the desk kind of rudely and said, do you know who I am?
Oh.
And her response, I decided at her response I was going to marry her. She said, I don't know, the Queen of England in drag. I thought you were somebody I wanted to get to know. So here's your check. Get out of here. So I spent the next several weeks showing up at her office, begging for mercy, trying to convince her I wasn't the jerk that I was. And she finally caved in and kind of saw the brighter side of me. And it
Wow.
didn't help, it didn't hurt that her family and my family knew each other.
Oh, wow.
And my mother-in-law was my best friend. I tell everybody I married my mother-in-law and she
Wow.
came along with the package.
Wow. That's
So,
awesome.
so 7 years later, my mother-in-law said, well, what? And I said, what? She said, when are you going to get married? I said, why? Are we dating? and that was the beginning of 35 years.
Wow.
20,
We've been
27
married for
years.
27 years, and we were together 7
7 years
years
before
before
that.
that.
Wow.
Yeah, because it took 7 years for me to go, oh, maybe. No.
See, I tell everybody I found a really good attorney and I married her. She tells everybody she found a really needy guy with legal services and it was cheaper to marry me. That's our history in business.
Oh,
And now the Hawaiian shirts are going to come in handy because now I shut everything down in 2020 because of illnesses, but
right.
I'm going to be okay. And we decided as long as I'm not going to die, we should do something in our retirement.
Right. Right.
And my idea was we've got to combine almost 80 years in business as consultants to entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
So my dream was we go sit on the beach for breakfast and lunch, go to the hotel, do a radio show or a podcast, and go back to the beach. So that was my idea of a working retirement, doing what we both have a passion for, we enjoy doing, and we can do from anywhere in the world.
Love it. Love it. And how has that journey been so far?
We started a year ago, and I decided I wanted to do a podcast. I had no clue what a podcast was. So we looked for a 10-year-old to explain. So we started the podcast, the Mike and Joe Consulting, just about a year ago. And we're taking it slow, methodically. We're not paying for advertising. We're doing our own self-promotion through groups on Facebook and social media. And quite frankly, I have to think about slowing down so we don't get too busy until she's ready to retire.
Yeah. Yeah. And you brought up a good point. Like, I want the other entrepreneurs that are out there to understand that too, right? You don't actually have to run ads, and it's not the huge numbers everybody thinks that it is or that it takes online for people to learn about your business.
Word of mouth, 38 years for her, 40 years for me. We have never had an advertising budget.
Wow.
We don't buy commercials. We don't go on TV.
Mm-hmm.
We don't buy big yellow page ads. And we don't spend a lot of money. We don't spend anything on SEO or optimization on our website. We use our website as a business card.
Right.
We introduce, and we don't sell. We introduce ourselves. We introduce our passion. We tell you what we do. And if you're not interested, we move on to the next person.
Right.
Because one thing I learned is every yes is followed by 99 no's.
Mm-hmm.
So every time we get an interested party, we hurry up and try to get denied 99 times so we can find the next yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a few clients that know a lot of people, and there's no advertising that you could pay for that is better than a satisfied client.
Wow. Yes. Word of mouth.
In my practice, I have found, and it appears to be bearing true in this business, for lack of a better word, as well. First of all, women especially are very, very reluctant to say, I'm really good at this.
Right.
We're just not socialized. Well, guess what? I'm really good at this. And I have found in my practice, we do initial consultations for a reduced rate, a significantly reduced rate than my hourly rate. I spend an hour with people, not 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found that if they meet me, they buy me.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that don't buy me, it's a good thing because we're not the right fit.
Okay.
And, and I've actually told people that wanted to hire me in the practice, you know what? Trust me, I'm not the right person for you. Yeah. And they don't like that. And they kind of, some get offended, some cry. But I just, I know what fits, and I can, troubleshoot. So I'm finding the same thing here because we're a little bit different. You probably figured that out by now. We're a little bit different than normal consultants.
Right.
Because we've done it all. We didn't learn it out of a book. We made every mistake there is. Not once, not twice, more than that. And there is a dynamic between the two of us that just energizes people.
Right.
It just energizes people. We've had so many people say to us, I really wanted to go into business. I really wanted to start, but I was kind of lukewarm. But then like you ignited it, and because we give real, practical, do this, do this, do this. And we try, and just like with my clients, I try to tailor it to the person. It's not a one size fits all. It's a one size fits you.
And let me ask you, what do you think? Do you think that the client should come to you before they start the business? Or do you think entrepreneurs should start and then seek an attorney or consultant? What are your takes on it?
My preference is that they come when they have the idea.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you why. Because the first thing that I try to impress on people, we try to impress on people, to start a business, first of all, there's one person that you absolutely need. You can't do it without them. You. You have to be 100% sold into your business. You have to believe in you. You have, you can't sit there and go, oh, I'm not sure if I can do it, because you're going to, you got it. You dance every day. You make those decisions every day. Lots of them are going to be wrong. Lots of things are going to go wrong, and you need to know yourself. That's number one. Number two, you got to build a team. Got to have an attorney. You got to have an insurance professional. You got to have a financial professional if you need money. Now, back in the day, we would tell people you need a banker.
Right.
You need to go. Today, you can get a loan off your credit card, whatever, things like that. So we got to build that team. But more importantly, I do not ascribe to the belief. I'm very unpopular with this. I do not ascribe to the belief that you can be anything you want to be.
Ooh.
I'm never going to be Miss Universe. And she's laughing.
I'll be Atlas.
Yeah. He's not doing Iron Man anytime soon. He's more like doing SpongeBob, So, but that doesn't mean you can't be what you want to be. You just have to get real. I'm 5 foot. I just found out yesterday. I'm now 5'5". I used to be 5'7". I'm not going to play in the WNBA.
Right.
It's not, and that's what I mean. And I think we do such a great disservice when we say to people, "You can be anything."
Right.
No, you can't.
Right.
What you can be is the best at what your skill set fits, at what your personality fits, at what you want to do. So I have had entrepreneurs, I should say, I have had prospective entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs, people that come into the office for an initial consultation because they want to start a business. And I've said to them, don't do it. Don't. It's not going to work. And then whatever they choose, it's up to them. But that's the blatant honesty that people are going to get from us. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear just because you wrote me a check.
I think that's very important, right? Because I think right now on social media, there's so much hype around things and it's not real.
Yeah.
That's not real life, and that's not real entrepreneurship. What you're seeing is made up to make people either give them a check, but that's not what it really is. And I wish there were more avenues for people that have been in the business for a long time to be as out there, right,
Mhm.
with their expertise,
Yep.
so you could really learn, so you wouldn't have to go through those hard lessons.
Absolutely. We are not going to sell just what you said is so incredibly true, and it's such a huge disservice
Mhm.
because people are investing caboodles of money. I've seen them. They've come in the office and they, well, I paid this one and they told me this, and I paid this one and I told me this, and I'm going, oh my God. But we are not going to sell you a dream.
Mhm.
We are going to help you realize yours.
Mhm.
That's what we're committed to.
I think one of the biggest things that we see consistently, especially in the last generation or so, is people think they can create a passion for anything that earns the most money.
Ooh, yep.
So
Wait.
we,
I'm gonna stop you. Can you
so
repeat that
we,
again? I need you
yeah,
to repeat that.
yes. So once you do something you hate, but you're making a ton of money,
Mm-hmm.
it's like being with a person you don't really like. The honeymoon is over, and
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, earning money becomes a horrible
Mm-hmm.
chore every day. But if you're doing something that you have a passion for, the money will follow you
Oh yeah.
because your passion will be your sales tool. You won't have to spend $100,000 convincing people you're good. You'll have free advertising from people that know you're good.
Right.
And when you have a passion, it, so you have a bad money day, but you still had fun. You still didn't have to find extra money for a psychiatrist. So
Listen, don't knock
that's
it. They're
one
good.
that's one of the things that we try to get people to understand in the very beginning. I used to, before COVID, speak at a lot of colleges,
Right.
and the first thing I would ask is, how many of you here are majoring in what you want to do, or the only thing your parents will pay for?
Ooh.
Because the minute your parents pass away, you're throwing this out the window and you're going to go do what you want to do.
Mhm.
So are you here for 4 years for a passion, or are you here for 4 years doing something you're going to dread because the only way you could get an education?
Wow.
Follow your passion because you're not going to be young forever, and you can't be miserable forever.
Mm-hmm.
And that falls under the I will tell entrepreneurs, I'll tell anybody, but um get a dictionary. They still sell those. And get a pair of scissors and cut out the words can't and should. They
Wow.
will destroy you. They will destroy you. Well, I really should do that. Why? Why should you do that? If there's a valid reason,
Mm-hmm.
then do it. But I mean this, well, I should do this because it's expected of me, or I should do this because my husband wants me to. He's never heard that. Well, I should do this. I should do this because, my parents want to see me be fill in the blank, a doctor, a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. No,
Right.
you have to know you. And, people really think about that concept quite a bit. I see them, really go, yeah, you know what? You got something there. So,
The other thing that we notice is very common is I'm sick and tired of putting in 40 hours to make somebody else rich. And then we say, congratulations, you can pick the 110 hours that you're going to put in to make yourself rich.
Wow. Wow. Listen, if only more people knew is more work as an entrepreneur.
I always say becoming an entrepreneur or starting a business is like having a baby. When the baby cries, you feed it, you change it. You don't go golfing, you don't go to the beach, you don't go out to dinner with your friends. The baby need you as a priority. Your business is a baby in the first many years. So when your business or your baby cries for something, it's your obligation. You have to fulfill those needs. And you can't call somebody at 5:01 who's getting a paycheck because they don't want to hear anything until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So when the phone rings in the morning, it's you. And when you have to, we just canceled a 10-day vacation because we had other obligations. And there was no choice. These are obligations. We have to do this. The vacation that we planned for a year got canceled. So we'll take 10 more. But those are just the starting out is just educating people to the reality of being a franchise or a business or an entrepreneur. A lot of people think there's just 3 different ways to make money and don't realize that there's actually 3 completely different definitions of those titles and obligations that go with them.
And you know, it's funny. I just had a mortgage broker on the podcast, right? And she just started her own business. Before, she used to work under someone. And yes, she was an entrepreneur because she's managing her own business, but it wasn't her brokerage. And the difference and the responsibility level that comes with both is completely different. You know, so sometimes, you're a realtor underneath a, company, but you don't have the headaches and the sleepless nights. You have other headaches and other problems. But being the head of the business or the reality that comes with that is a whole different ballgame.
And I love the reference Undercover Boss. The people that come out of the Eiffel Tower and have no clue what their business consists of. They have no idea what their employees think of them, how they work, the franchises. You go into 10 franchises and it's like going into 10 different businesses because nobody's following the rules. So being the owner, being the entrepreneur, being the creator comes with a lot of responsibilities. And you can't be out of touch. And you have to realize the value of your employees. I always say the receptionist is probably one of the most important people in your corporation because they're the first view. When they answer the phone, yeah, what do you want? That's your first impression. So if your receptionist is having a bad day, your entire business is having a bad day.
Oh, I see you've called a lot of doctors' offices.
Yeah, I don't have to be a brain surgeon to teach a brain surgeon how to run a better business. So, and then your salespeople. You can have the greatest salespeople in the world, but if your employees under them don't communicate and they come in and give you something completely different than you were sold, there's your second line of impressions. So everybody has to be in sync. And everybody has to understand what the other person is saying, doing, and expecting. And it's the owner's obligation to make sure they all know that.
And how do you mitigate some of those risks? So you're a business owner and you are hiring, your sales, do you think it's the training? But let's say, for example, you've already trained them. How do you try and prevent some of those things from happening?
I think the easiest way to do it is make your salespeople spend 2 or 3 days with the service people. Make the service people spend 2 or 3 days with the salespeople. And then have both of them spend 2 or 3 days with the receptionist who's getting all the calls and complaints. And then the owner, I don't expect the owner to get on a roof, but he should at least be sitting in the car to see how the roofers are doing. And when you have more than one crew or more than one part of your company, like I was very big in my family business with routes. We had 6, 7 route people.
Oh,
And my father would say, rotate every 2 months. You're doing his route, you're doing his route, you're doing his route.
wow.
So if you get sick and you have to fill in, his customers aren't used to seeing something different. You're all doing the same job, and it shouldn't matter which provider I send to you. You should get the same service as your original guy.
Wow. I like that.
I've managed employees for 38 years,
Mm-hmm.
and every single human resource problem that there is. I don't like her. I can't work with her. I'm just not going to show up. I mean, just crazy stuff. I think one of the keys is clear communication.
Mm-hmm.
People cannot read your mind. I can't stand when I hear somebody say, "Oh, they know what I mean." How do you know that?
Right.
Just tell them. And it doesn't hurt to reduce things to writing.
Mm-hmm.
I know whenever I bring in if I bring in a new front desk person,
Mm-hmm.
they get a script.
Mm-hmm.
Now, within several months, they will tailor that script to their personality. It might sound very staid at first, but then after a while, they don't need it at all, but they're hitting all the points. Because when people call people call an attorney's office, they're not usually happy. So, and they need to hear some concern coming from the other side, genuine concern, and we do have that. So I think it's clear communication. I think it's constant monitoring. And I was very fortunate when I started to practice because I could not afford help.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to figure out how to practice law by day, and I was typing all night.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I started my practice on the floor of my bedroom in my parents' house with a $9 a week rented typewriter. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So when a secretary comes to me and says, this is going to take me half a day, I say, no, it's not, because I can do it in an hour. And I can't type like you can, because I stink at typing, but that's your job. So I think, and I'm not saying that every owner or boss is going to do every job in the organization. I understand that, but you can understand the job.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, what are you asking of people? Yeah, I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. 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 That's extremely valid. Those are extremely valid points. Like, having the years of expertise that both of you have, it shows. Let me ask you, how do you know when it's time to give up? Like, you've started a business, it's not working out. How do you know it's time?
Boy, that is like the worst question you could have asked us. Um, I come home and say, "That's it, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore." And she'll say, "Oh, you know what? Let's talk about it this weekend. Just give it 2 or 3 more days. You're not going to die." And
And usually by 10 o'clock that night, he's back on the emails and he's back on the computer and he's doing contacts and stuff like that. So there's not a whole lot of give up in him. But your question is extremely valid one. And I don't know. I think it's time to give up when your passion is gone, when not fixing it is a more attractive alternative than fixing it. And I'm not talking about like the day I had today,
Right.
where I was just like, you know what? The next person that calls is going out the window because I just can't. It's not that kind of, frustrating because of what happened, because somebody called you a name or you lost a case or whatever. It's that deep down, I can fix this. I don't want to.
Ooh.
search long enough, you will find a legitimate reason to talk yourself out of anything.
Right.
So if it's really in your heart to stop, that's when it's time. And I like to think of it, it's time when you're going to bed and you're saying to yourself, I
Mhm.
really don't want to do this. Forget about what other people are giving you advice. Forget about what you think should be done. It's when you start your internal dialogue, then it's time to think about doing something new.
When the decision to stop isn't yours,
Mm.
it's made for you.
Right,
And I
right.
can give you a good example. We had a drug testing and training business for 20 years.
Mhm.
In 1999 and 2000, I'm sorry, 2020,
That was a
yeah,
good 20.
2019 and 2020, um, guess what? Nobody was flying planes because of COVID. Railroads weren't running because of COVID. Trucking
Mhm.
industry went in the toilet because of COVID. There were no, we had huge contracts over the whole Northeast, and they were gone. So it wasn't an internal question for us. How do we fix this? It was over.
Right,
It was
right,
over. It's kind of like 20 years ago. You would go to the store and rent a video, right? Rent
right,
a video
right,
tape.
right.
You would take it
Blockbuster.
home, you would put it in your video player, and you'd watch the movie, and then you'd get it back in 5 days, or you paid extra. We
Wow.
don't do that. Entire industry went poof
Yep.
because we've got streaming and Netflix and Hulu and Roku and Amazon Prime and everything. So sometimes the decision, and sometimes health will make the decision for you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Something, God forbid, happens and you just can no longer execute your particular job. A roofer breaks his back. Guess what? It's not going back on that roof. So if the decision can possibly be made for you by external forces, and you have to know when to stop banging your head against the wall because it's not
Right.
going to change. But then the other times is when you voluntarily decide it's over. And that's, as Michael said, listen. And entrepreneurs have to listen to their gut
Right. Right.
in the face of everybody going, what? Listen to your gut. That's
Mhm.
really, really important.
Wow. Wow. I have enjoyed every single solitary second of
Thank
it with
you.
you guys. I want you to impart some wisdom on our entrepreneurs or listeners out there. If you had to leave them with advice, I want Mike, you give some, and Joe, you give some.
I would say the most important thing that I could tell a a working entrepreneur or someone who's considering it is know your number one, know yourself.
Mhm.
Do you trust yourself to make decisions? Because at the end of the day, when you put your head on the pillow, it's you. Period. Literally, the buck stops with you. The second thing that's really important that we both have had the privilege of in our lifetime is an incredible support system.
Mm.
Had a, I have, I had, we are old Italian family stuff, okay? And we have had the most incredible support from family and from each other.
Wow.
So if and if we actually do a whole series on, it's called Bedroom to Boardroom, and it's doing business with your spouse. Because a
Ooh.
lot of folks retire and they decide we're going to go into business together, and about a year and a half later, they're in my office getting a divorce.
Mhm.
um, so, um, so if your spouse is involved or not, make sure they're on board with you.
Mhm.
Because for
Mhm.
sure, as I am sitting here, they're going to resent, if they're not in the business with
Right.
you, they're going to resent the time it takes away from them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So know yourself, have a support system,
Mhm.
and you should be good.
The support system is key. There's
Mhm.
so many people that have such potential, but they don't have a positive person around them.
Mhm. Mhm.
So having a good support system, having good friends, and really, when people come to us with struggling businesses, I think my first go-to is what has changed with you, the owner.
Wow.
The business was perfect for the first 10 years. What happened to you? Did you lose your passion? Did you get distracted? Did you lose control? Because the business didn't change.
Mm-hmm.
The leadership changed.
Ooh.
Was it illness? Was it a divorce? Was it resentment? But what changed? And if your passion is still there, you'll deal with all those things that change without you knowing it. 9 times out of 10, I would say they don't realize why they're struggling until somebody stops them and says, think backwards.
Wow.
What has changed? And then they just almost all the time go, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what changed. This is what changed. This is who took away my mojo.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And
Wow.
there's nothing wrong with the business. The business is just fine.
Wow. Listen, I appreciate you both. Please let our listeners know where they can find you. What's the best way to reach out?
Okay. The main business, the corporation is Lady Law Publishing. We run Mike and Joe Consulting under Lady Law Publishing. LadyLawPublishing.com or MikeandJoeConsulting.com. We have podcasts, radio shows, YouTubes, and we offer consulting and training and classes through our website. So you can get a hold of us. We do initial free consultations through Zoom or StreamYard or whatever you want. So you don't, we're not selling you anything to meet us.
Right.
Call. Let's spend a half hour, 45 minutes. And if what we do is going to benefit you, why wouldn't you hire us?
Right.
And because we're at the end of our work loads, we can work considerably cheaper than when we were in the profit mode, in the CEO mode, and in the survival mode. So now we're going into our passion as a semi-retirement gig that we can enjoy a few hours a day, as long as we're on the beach a few hours a day.
Disclaimer, as long as it's not taking away from beach time.
No,
Right.
We'll give you a deduction for saving us the therapy sessions.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you both for being on. I really appreciate the time that you spent today. I think our listeners are going to learn so much. You have so much to share, and I look forward to having you on again.
Look us up on the internet, call us, text us, however you want, ask your questions. We're here to share.
Awesome. 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 I appreciate it.